would be up waiting for you if you had to leave. I would wait a lifetime if you were at sea. I just wanna say that I feel that our love is real. Maybe we should hurry up and seal the deal. I just wanna love you right. Love you till the end of time. I just wanna hold you for forever. Every day you're making me better. 'Cause a love like this is rare. And I wanna take you there. I would give it all away to do it all again. Make our love a story that would never end. Never thought I'd feel so alive, looking in your eyes. I just wanna love you till the day I die. Oh, I just wanna love you right. Oh, love you till the end of time. I just wanna hold you for forever. Every day you're making me better. 'Cause a love like this is rare. And I wanna take you there. If I'm gonna love somebody, I just wanna love you. If I'm gonna love somebody, I just wanna love you. If I'm gonna love somebody, I just wanna love you. If I'm gonna love somebody, I just wanna love you.
You could say,
Oh,
what?
I just wanna love you
Dude,
right.
just put it on the screen.
Oh, I meant that.
Oh, I can't because they'll see.
Love you till the end of time.
Well,
I just wanna hold you for forever. Every day you're making me better. 'Cause I love like.
Hi everyone, don't you love that song? I'm so in love with that song. I have to say the tech guy is very excited because this is the first time we're doing live on YouTube and Facebook. So yay for that. Yeah, give yourself a round of applause for the tech guy. And I totally had such a blast for Star Wars last week. I'm glad you did too. And the tech guy loved every minute of it, as did Sky Guy, which I still need to share Sky Guy's site. In fact, remind me, I'm going to do that tomorrow. There it is. Very nice. It's so great to see all of your beautiful faces, and I just love this awesome community that we have. The song makes me think. I have just discovered Songland. Has anybody been following Songland? I'm new to it because it showed up on my Hulu, so I'm only watching season 2 because that's what Hulu has. But I know there's a season 1, so I've got to track it down and find it somewhere because it's such a cool concept. It's songwriters who go in and share their writing with these major professional songwriters, as well as a variety of artists, like from every musical genre you can imagine. And I'm totally addicted to it because I love watching how the writing process unfolds, because it's a lot like writing fiction, even though, you know, you're kind of telling that story in a song and it's the same language. You know, you need the hook. What's that song that you're going to listen to? For us tonight, it's Rare Love. What's the storytelling within the song? It's so great. Oh, everybody says we're echoing.
No,
oh, sorry.
It's over, Tom.
It's over.
I apologize. I had one of the mics unmuted. So.
Oh, okay. The tech guy says sorry. He had one of the mics unmuted. So it should be fixed now. Let's see. Anyway, yes, Songland. I highly recommend it, especially, you know, just from watching how they dissect a story and break it down into a very tight song form. I always feel like I don't have a lot of room to work with in a 300-page book, but you're talking, you know, a 2-minute song, which is amazing. Yay. Okay, good. All right. So tonight we are going to go on a little tour of the series so far, as next month, the 13th book in the Bakeshop Mysteries comes out. We're going to have a baker's dozen. I can't believe it. I seriously can't believe it. If I'm ever at a point where I'm not just grinning ear to ear about that, then please someone punch me in the face. Seriously, like punch me in the face. But what I thought is, for anyone who used to watch, I don't know if they still do this or not, but back in the day with a show that you were watching on television, you'd kind of have like the mid-season recap. So you'd get halfway through the show and then they'd have a special episode where they kind of give you a recap of everything and then talk about what's coming next in the second half of the season. So I feel like that's what we're going to do with the Bake Shop tonight. If you have any questions, it can be about Bake Shop, it can be about writing, anything, you name it. Feel free to put them in the comments and I'll try to answer them as we go. But there are not going to be spoilers tonight. That's the big thing. No spoilers. Yes, absolutely. No spoilers. I promise. I promise. There might be a few, like, you might learn something about the expansion of the Bake Shop, but that there will be nothing that spoils any subplots. And certainly I'm not going to give away any killers, but I want to give you sort of just like a little bit of an evolution. And then I'm going to read the first chapter of Mocha, She Wrote. And I have actually redacted sections of that because even in the first chapter there were spoilers. Who knew? Yeah. So on that note, let's get right to it. Yay for no spoilers. Okay, good. I'm glad, Marcia. No spoilers, I promise. We're going to start with the very first book that launched it all, which is Meet Your Baker, that beautiful bright yellow cover. And I will say that to date, there's never been another yellow cover. We had talked about book 14 going yellow, but as you'll see at the end, we went a different direction with it. So yellow right now is one and only for the series. In this book, we kind of get the whole backstory about Juliet, our protagonist, Juliet Montague Capshaw. Please call her Jules. For anyone who's been reading the series, you know that she prefers to go by Jules, although she answers to Juliet too. I think that says so much about her as a character because immediately right off the bat, we're like, okay, we know that she kind of has these dueling parts of her personality because she grew up in Ashland, and there's this whole theme of Shakespeare, obviously, that runs as a thread through the entire series because Ashland really is home to the Oregon Shakespeare Festival. But, uh-oh, the echo's back there saying, oh no.
I've got it.
Okay, the tech guy has it. The tech guy's on the echo. Well, let's see. So in the series, Juliet has grown up in Ashland. She has this whole affinity towards Shakespeare because there really is a lot of Shakespeare here in the real Ashland. And she went away. She left home and she went out and she had adventures in the world. She went to New York to go to culinary school. And then she has spent the last decade as a pastry chef for the Armoire of the Seas, the love of the sea, where she met her husband Carlos and she sailed from romantic port to romantic port. There is also a theme of romance that runs through the series because her name is Juliet, so I couldn't not do that. It had to happen. You bought it on vacation in Ashland. Oh my gosh, Mary, I love that so much. So great. So you were like fully immersed in the Ashland experience. Like how meta is that? You're in Ashland and you're reading about Ashland. Oh, Lisa, I'm so glad you were hooked. That's awesome. So exciting. So with Meet Your Baker, the very first thing that happens is Jules decides, and I won't give this away, that she's going to leave Carlos, her husband. She's going to leave the ship. You learn this right away, so no spoilers, I promise. And she's returning home to Ashland to kind of cocoon herself in and to run her family bake shop Tort. And so that really sets the scene for multiple books to come. And there is going to be resolution with what she decides to do with her love life. But she's got to be lovelorn for a little while because she's Juliet. She's named after the most perhaps romantic and unlucky in love character in all of literature, which I absolutely love. Someone mentioned the crack case. There's a skull in every cover, so it's always fun to go through and try to figure out which skull is where. That used to be my son's favorite thing to do. Now he's a little bit older, so it's not quite the sleuth out that it used to be, but nonetheless. So in Meet Your Baker, we also kind of get introduced to all of the initial cast. We meet Helen, Jules' mom, who is modeled after my mom. And I have to say something that was so touching to me this last weekend because it was Mother's Day. So happy belated Mother's Day to everyone. I try not to do a lot on the weekends on social media. Like I might pop in for a minute or two, but I try to reserve my weekend time just because I write professionally and like any other job, you have to take a break. But nonetheless, I popped on to Instagram on Sunday morning and I had been tagged in multiple posts where book lovers were sharing their favorite fictional characters, their favorite fictional moms, I should say. And Helen Capshaw, who is Jules' mom, was on so many lists. And I was just like sobbing beautiful, happy tears on my couch because my mom died young. And so getting to write Helen is definitely like getting to bring her back on the page. So I just absolutely love that readers resonate with her because she really is inspired by my mom. I mean, obviously she's different and she's evolved into her own character as the series has grown, but that's a little touch. So we get to meet Helen. We meet the professor, who is Ashland's lead detective, and he quotes Shakespeare and walks around in a tweed jacket and is like one of the kindest humans on the planet, and he is loosely based after my dad. And then we meet Andy, the star barista, Sterling, and Steph, and that's, and Thomas, Jules' high school boyfriend, now the deputy in training for the police team who are going to investigate these murders. And I'm not going to go into the murders for each of the books, but that's just kind of the quick backstory of how the series got started. And then from there, we launch into book 2, which is titled A Batter of Life and Death. I would love to know what you all think of punny titles because I have way too much fun coming up with them. Nancy, I know it was sweet. It was so touching. And totally unexpected. Like I said, I don't even know why I logged on. I just did. And then I guess it was meant to be. I was guided to that. Oh, Anna, welcome. Oh, Leah, you picture the professor as an older Christopher Plummer. That's brilliant. Yeah, I love that. I could totally see that. I'm always intrigued by what readers think about characters and how they look in their head, because I definitely have a vision in my head, but it's probably totally different than yours. And I'm always interested in that. Lenore, Lenny, you love the titles. I know they're so bad, but you have to laugh, and your husband too. Yay. Okay, so for In a Batter of Life and Death, the other thing that I want to talk about is the fact that really the theme, you're laughing, I immediately stop everything I'm doing and shout. I bet you do, Jamie. That does not surprise me. One of the themes, there are multiple subplots that run through the series, but one of the themes that I really love to explore as a writer, because I think it just resonates so much with me, is the idea of home. So a lot of Jules' story early on in the series is about that idea of coming home. And when you've left home and when you come back, it's different and you're different. And how does that change the whole vibe of everyone around you? So I love getting to explore that. And in book 2, I feel like, book 1, we're really introducing her. She's coming home. We're introducing Ashland. And then you love the punny titles. The punnier, the better. Yay. Okay. I'm glad. Because there's lots more puns to come. So get ready. In Batter of Life and Death, she's really like trying to decide. For the first few books, it's like she's torn between these worlds. And I did that on purpose because in fiction, we want to give our characters lots of trials and tribulations. We as readers, sometimes wish that maybe those characters didn't have as many obstacles in their way, but that's what makes us want to also turn the page. So in book 2, in Batter of Life and Death, she's really starting to decide like, oh, I'm loving this place and being home is different for me. And I'm finding myself in a new way here, which I love in terms of a character's growth. This book is really also just a way for me to indulge in the fact that I absolutely am 100% addicted. I'm telling you right now to any sort of baking show. Because in this book, a fictional baking competition comes to town. The Pastry Channel comes to town, and Jules is competing in a live Great British Bake Off style. Although no one is as kind as they are in Great British Bake Off. It's more like Cutthroat Kitchen. But I want to know from you if you love baking shows as much as I do, because it's a problem. It's a serious problem. But in this book, I really got to breathe into that and do a deep dive for research, which I'm always happy to do. Barbara, your sister introduced you to the series. Oh, yay. And you've read them in order. I know. I just talked about that the other day. Do you read out of order? Because, wow, I'm always impressed. I'm in love with everyone in the series. Oh, thank you so much. Chad, Blythe Danner is 100% who I picture for Helen. Yes, you totally nailed that. Absolutely. Yes, all the way. I know, that's the problem, Lenny. I've binged so many of the baking shows that then I'm like, I need something new. I'm jonesing for something new. Yes, Great British Baking Show, Diana. It's so great. And they're so sweet. And then they win like a cake plate, where you're like, oh, Anna Louise, I do not know about the Canadian baking show. What? Hello, Canada. Thank you for that, Gem. I'm going to be binging that tonight, probably. Okay, so that's kind of like your short little introduction to that. Cortagonist, that dreamy Cortagonist. I want to have Cortagonist on as a guest. I haven't invited her yet, but I'm going to force her to say yes. I can't imagine that she won't. So we'll have to talk about that, because I think Cortagonist has seriously introduced everyone in the world to Cozy Mysteries. Not just mine, but Cozy Mysteries in general, which is the best. I know, Storm, you feel me on that? I know, I can't do it. I cannot do it. I've tried before, but it's not my preferred way of reading. But I am always impressed, because I will have readers who definitely email me and say, oh, I found, A Crime of Passion Fruit, and I started there, and then I went back and read the whole series, which I absolutely love. Okay, moving on, we're going to go. I love the show is one of those contestants that would cry. I know, right, Lillian? I know. I mean, and of course, from a cozy murder where you get to sort of play things up and be over the top, it was brilliant. And I will just tell you that the chef is buried in buttercream. My working title initially for this book was going to be Buried in Buttercream, but it turned out to be Matter of Life and Death. Okay, next on. Oh, wait, what? There's something new. It's on CBC. And Dan Levy. What? Oh, this is blowing my mind, Lynn. Okay, I know what I am Googling tonight. Oh, that's so awesome. Yay. It's going to get an influence. Yes, I know. We're all going to be like, okay, thank you, Canada. Okay, book 3 is the first time that we leave Ashland. Jules goes up to the beautiful resort of Lake of the Woods, Oregon, which is a real place. In fact, this winter, we went up and snowshoed around the lake, but the lake also freezes during the winter, so they have an annual kite fest, which I shared some pictures of. I think that was back in February. People ice fish on it. So this one is set in the dead of winter, and Jules goes up to cater an event for Lance, who is the artistic director. We didn't even talk about Lance. If we're talking about my favorite character, I love writing Lance. He's just so dreamy to me. He's kind of an amalgam of 2 of my friends mashed together. So I've taken little bits of both of their personalities to create the awesomeness that is Lance, who's the artistic director and Jules' bestie, and he really kind of forces her out of her comfort zone. And really, in these first few books, their relationship, their friendship is starting to build, but that grows over time, and he's become just a favorite of mine to write. On Thin Icing, there's a body found in the freezer at the lake, and it's also sort of a bit more of like an Agatha Christie locked room style mystery, because everyone is stuck. They're all, a storm happens. Of course, this really does happen here in Southern Oregon, especially in the winter. We get lots and lots of snow at the upper lakes and the high alpine lakes. And so everyone who is stuck at the lodge and in the little cute cabins is a potential suspect for murder. And of course, they can't get out. So that's a little gem for that one. What I want to say about this one too is in this book, we get a little glimpse of Carlos, and that's not going to be a big spoiler for anyone over either, but he pops in momentarily. So there you go. I love that. Joseph, I'm glad you love Lance. I don't have a problem finding his voice. Like the minute I sit down to write him, I know exactly what he's going to say and what he's going to make her do. Alan Cummings, I can see that. You know, I've always thought of Lance as Matthew Good. I love him, but I could see that too. Yes, Paula, Sterling really gets to start shining. One of the gifts of writing a long-running series is that all of these secondary characters take up more and more page time as the series grows, which I love. And Sterling, of course, is one of my all-time favorites. He's also loosely based on two people I know. I do that a lot. I'll take traits or kind of the aesthetic of somebody, their style, and I'll mash them together to create a character, which I totally love. Oh, I'm glad you love the covers. I can't take any credit for these because the publishing house designs them all, but I will send them ideas. The other funny thing is when I was writing this book, you see the oven, the beautiful wood burning pizza oven. We were remodeling our kitchen at that time and we were doing a ton, and we had a pizza oven in our old house built into the wall. And so that's kind of how that comes to be. Usually it's like whatever is really happening in my life somehow works itself onto the page. Okay, next up we get to Caught Red-Handed. This is the book that my teenager came up with the title for. I think he was in like 4th or 5th grade at the time. Maybe he was in early middle school, but this may be one of my favorite titles of all time. Jules in this one is really cementing herself in Ashland by now. We're 4 books in. She's invested in Tort, the family bake shop. Things are growing around her in the plaza. She's thinking about the future. She's wanting to expand the bake shop. There's some great interaction with her nemesis, the awful Richard Lord, who owns the Mary Windsor across the street. And in this particular one, we talked about this a couple weeks ago, but a chain restaurant wants to move into the sweet and charming plaza and put up neon lights and sell burgers, and that is just not going to happen. So you can probably imagine how the murder happens with that one. This is the type of book. Oh, that's awesome, Deborah. That's totally how I feel too. Every time I sit down to write a new book, which I'm writing one right now, I just get to feel like, oh, these are all people that I want in my real life, minus Richard Lord. I don't want a Richard Lord, but you know, we have to have someone who we have to hate. I know this is a repetition of an old refrain, but are you working on a map to include in future installments? Karen, you're so cute. Okay, all right. I am going to tell you that on Friday, I met with an artist who is one of my favorite artists here in Ashland, and she is starting to work on, drum roll. Oh, sorry.
You didn't give me
I didn't
enough
give you,
time.
yeah. Boom. An Ashland map. Because she lives in Ashland, so she knows it. I'm going to be sharing the process of creating that with you. She's amazing. She's so talented. I'm going to share her website and everything. Yes, I cannot wait. I cannot wait. You've all convinced me. You've all convinced me. It's happening. It's happening. Yay, I can't wait. Let's see. I did. Karen, I listened. Lynn, I was asking her. So the artist, her name is Jennifer Ann. She is a traditional, I think we're thinking watercolor, but it might be sketched initially. We're just in the initial planning stages of it. But I was saying, wouldn't it be cool then if we could take that image and somehow then on the website, this is where the tech guy is going to come in. He's saying yes to this. He's down. That you could click on it and then go, oh, okay. You know, here's where Tort really is. Here's where Richard Lord's place is. And then when you come to Ashland, there, you could take an interactive walk of all of the spots in the bake shop. And I don't know, if you complete them, maybe you get some sort of prize, or there's got to be something. I know, I'm throwing new stuff at the tech guy. He's freaking out in a good way. Okay, we move on from bread. We go heavy on the carbs, and then we switch to chocolate for Fudge and Jury. And Ashland really does every year have a chocolate festival. I was invited to come down for the chocolate festival early on before I had moved to Ashland, when I was probably working on Meet Your Baker or A Batter of Life and Death. And it is just a whole weekend of all things chocolate. You name it, it's chocolate. It's chocolate heaven. That's all I can say. There are Oompa Loompas around because you've got some Willy Wonka-ness. I should have shared a picture of that. And so in this book, Jules and the team are competing, well, or I shouldn't say competing, but they're showcasing their chocolate art at this competition. And really, I think in this one, we start to get a sense of how Jules is moving from, in the initial part of the series, she shows up and she's new and she's trying to navigate this idea of being back in her childhood home. And I feel like Fudge and Jury is really a turning point where she is really taking ownership of being a small business owner and managing the team and mentoring a young team, which is another thing that I really love writing. Jules is in her 30s, but she has a lot of staff that are college age, which is very true in the restaurant business, especially a bake shop or a coffee shop here in Ashland. And I think that's pretty universally true. But I love the idea that in this culinary world, she gets to nurture these young up and coming students, designers, baristas, sous chefs. And I think that's such a reflection of her as a character. And that really starts to take shape in Fudge and Jury. Oh my gosh, Angela, thank you so much. That's so sweet of you to say. I love it. If you finish the game in Ashland, you get a pair of skull earrings. Yeah, I like it. Oh, the tech guy says he thinks he can do skull earrings. Okay, all right. We're gonna have to work on that. We got to get the map done first. But that'll be a process. I'll be excited to share that with you. Let's see. Then we move on to book 6, and this is a big departure for Jules, A Crime of Passion Fruit. My editor came up with that title, which I absolutely adore. In this book, Jules returns to the sea. She's not just taking a cruise, though. She gets invited back to do a temporary stint in the pastry kitchen. And this book is critical, I think, in this series. When I started writing Jules as a character, I knew that she was going to have this growth arc with finding love, finding home, finding love. And this book is really part of that. I had to send her back to the ship so that she can really have a moment of pause and reflection to say, I left this life behind. Like, is that really what I wanted? And I think we probably all know the answer to that. That's probably not going to be a spoiler either. But it gives us a glimpse into that lifestyle, because I think that it's easy to romanticize the idea of being at sea and going to all of these gorgeous ports of call, and you've got this elegant food and everything. But I learned in my early research, when I decided that she was going to have gone off to see the world and that was going to be part of her backstory, that it is hard work. I don't know if anyone on the live tonight has had experience working on a cruise ship, but oh my goodness, you're working around the clock. You're probably not seeing those gorgeous sunsets all the time. You're bunking with a bunch of people from all around the world. Like, you know, when you peel back the curtain, I guess it's not quite all of the bells and whistles that you might experience as a guest on the ship. And when I was working on this book, I actually had a chance to go and see the kitchens and the staff quarters, and they're all below deck. You know, so you don't have like these gorgeous balconies where you're sitting drinking coffee and watching the dolphins. My earrings are on point with, I know, I planned it that way. I didn't, Nancy, but I am going to claim that I did. I went on a cruise once. I did more research. Like I was saying, I went on the ship multiple times when it was docked. I went on one cruise when our kiddo was young. We went with our best friends from college. All of our kids, I think, were like 4. They were in preschool. So it was a great experience for that, because there were so many activities for the kids. I personally, I know this might surprise you all, because I am very outgoing and energetic, but I also kind of have a very small world in terms of, I'm usually writing in the basement by myself. So the big cruise was a little bit of sensory overload for me. And because I am usually such an observer, I was just like, oh, okay, oh, what's happening here? Oh, what's happening here? I like want to take notes. And so I would say I enjoyed the experience, but I'm not sure that's necessarily like a vibe from my personality. But it was awesome. And we got to see like all these gorgeous ports of call. Yeah, right. Exactly. A lifestyle I could not do either. And it seemed so amazing. And yeah, You only go to your cabin to sleep, and ports you're working, right? Yeah. Okay. So Anna Louise, you know, if you did it, I can't even imagine. And I mean, the hours that they're working, which is not unlike the hours that Jules works at Tort either, but I feel like it's different, and she kind of has control over that. I know, Chad. I'm so glad you do. It's funny because I would say that if you look at the stretch of the series, A Crime of Passion Fruit is the least read book in the series, which is fascinating to me because I think there is also this contingent of readers who were like, don't you dare let her leave Ashland. But, you know, like every once in a while, she's got to get out. So that's my warning to you. She might. Yeah, Steph, it is like it's working at a pastry kitchen. Any sort of baker's hours are crazy. And then, you know, she's there all day and she's got this staff. I do think it's funny because I've received email from a few readers saying like, this is impossible. You would never have a chef who only has, or a pastry shop that only has, you know, that small staff, but it's true. And here in Ashland, like we have some world-class restaurants, but a lot of them are run by very, very small staffs. Very small now. Okay, after that, oh my gosh, Karen. Okay, I will show up for that. I would do that. That's true. If we can get a real life Carlos somehow, and okay, all right. Yeah, we could have a whole murder cruise. A murder cruise. Oh no, we're all in. Okay, let's do it, guys. Okay, all right. Maybe we could do, have you seen the commercials for the cruises on like PBS shows where they're cruising through like the river cruises that in Europe? Yeah, that looks beautiful. And actually there's one that goes up the Columbia River Gorge that is also beautiful. So we could do like our own like small, intimate, private cruise with just us, just our crew. I love that. Okay, let's see. So moving on, we get to okay, yeah. This is interesting because one question that I get asked a lot is, where does Trouble is Brewing fall within the series? And technically, it doesn't really fall anywhere. This is just an ebook short. It's only available in ebook. This book I wrote to introduce the Sloane Krause series. So my editor emailed me and said, hey, I think it'd be fun if you just wrote like a super short, fun little mystery, not a murder even. It's like a Scooby-Doo style mystery. They solve the case of the missing keg. Sloane comes to Ashland. They meet up because, of course, they're both these foodies and they would be friends in real life, I feel like. And so Trouble is Brewing would fall here. I wrote it in between the time Crime of Passion Fruit released and what's next? Till Death, no, Another One Bites the Crust. But it is just sort of like an introduction to Sloane. So it's kind of a standalone.
And it's an ebook only, which is boring.
Oh yeah, that's why the cover's different. It's ebook only. The cupcake, there's no skull. Yeah, there's no skull. It's ebook only. And the cupcake cutout there, that is the bridge in Lithia Park. So they wanted to do like a little like nod to Ashland, but yeah. Is it number 6.5? I guess. Yeah. It's kind of like its own thing. Yeah. But yeah. You read it, Janita? I'm glad that you think it's great. This was the hardest book for me to write. I think I've talked about this before because it was so short. I think it's only 50 pages and it's a lot to cram in 50 pages. I like a little more space, but it was a really fun way to introduce Sloane. And I do feel like if they met in real life, that's what would happen. They would adore each other. So, oh, yay. I'm glad you liked meeting Sloane, Angela. That's awesome. Okay, so then we move on to Another One Bites the Crust, and I dare you not to go like that. I had to ask the tech guy. I was like, wait, what happens in Another One Bites the Crust? It's been a little while. That's the problem because right now I'm working on book 15 and we're going to get to some pages of book 13 in a minute. And Another One Bites the Crust. You're wearing your Tort shirt, Julie. That's awesome. And Another One Bites the Crust. Lance finds the body at the bottom of the Shakespeare stairs. And so really Jules is pulled into the investigation because of Lance. And she's worried about him too. He's having some challenges with the theater, which is all really relevant, I think, in real life in terms of funding and audience sizes and everything that happens in a real working theater. And I feel like this book is a real turning point in their friendship. This book is the point at which Jules and Lance really become besties for good. And we start to see a little more of a glimpse into his depth too, because he likes to have this outward facing personality that is very flippant and funny and light. And, you know, they have this great banter back and forth between them. But I feel like in this book, Jules is starting to peel back the layers a little bit, and we're getting glimpses into who Lance is at his core, which I think is great as a writer, and also just as a character who over time I have come to just be in love with myself too. And then we go into Wedding Zone with Till Death Do Us Part. I won't tell you who's getting married in this because I promise no spoilers, but this is our first Tort wedding. Did you hear what I said there? This is our first Tort wedding. So someone in the Tort universe is getting married and everyone's excited about the nuptials. I will tell you that the wedding is set at Uva, which is the organic vineyard that Jules eventually over the course of the series ends up being a partial owner of. So it's set out at the vineyard, which is just a beautiful spot. And Jules is, of course, trying to make sure that the wedding day is perfection when a body appears. And that's all I'm going to say about that one. I love the cover of this one too. The skull is so great. And those tarts are like my favorite thing to bake. And the bake shop in Ashland, where I imagine Tort would sit, is really called Mix. And they have little tarts just like that always in their pastry case, which is so perfect.
I had a few questions here.
Okay.
Go back a second.
We're going to go back.
Steph wanted to know, I don't know.
How does it start? They say, I think it's like, you're going to, my guess is, someone look this up and then tell me it's wrong. They're back there, so I could go grab one. I feel like it's like they say that love is the answer, but.
How does Trouble's Brewing start?
Does it start with they say? I have no idea. I have zero idea. That's a great question. I don't know. I'm going to have to go look it up. I don't remember.
I'm sure it's $1.99.
It's like $1.99. I think it's always $1.99. Yeah.
Sometimes
Yeah.
It goes on sale.
It was free for a while. I try to share it whenever it's free. That's hilarious. How does it start? I don't know. Isn't that the worst? I wrote it many years ago, so there goes my memory. Okay, and then after Till Death Do Us Part, we move on to, wait for it, Live and Let Pie. Live and Let Pie. This book is set at Emigrant Lake, and it is a real place also, just on the outskirts of town. So when you visit, in fact, I was talking to Jennifer Ann, our artist who's going to do the map, about making sure that there's like a little note toward the lake and then toward Lake of the Woods and Mount A and all this kind of surrounding Rogue Valley spots that I talk about. In this book, Jules is going to the lake to have a lovely lunch outside, and it's a gorgeous summer day, and the lake level is low, which is really a thing because we really have a drought here in Oregon. And because the lake level is low, two little girls are swimming and diving down under, and they come up and they bring up a skull. And they learn that there is a town that is buried deep beneath the lake's surface, or not so deep right now because of the drought. And that unearths an old murder, and there's also a modern murder. So this is the first time in the series that there are two bodies that we're working with. Jules is looking into an investigation from the past and into the present day. So I love that. And that is all true. There is really a town, Klamath Junction, buried underneath Emigrant Lake. And I've taken photos, but I'll have to share them again. This summer when the lake level was really low, you could see the top of like the gas station and the pump and everything. So yeah. Yeah, Bond vibe, totally. Live and let pie. And then we move on to something a bit more festive, which is A Cup of Holiday Fear. This is the first, I said that too. This is the first holiday book in the series. And I wanted to write a holiday book from the moment I knew that this was going to become a series. And this one technically does fall in line in terms of all of the subplots and stories that have been happening. This is where it is in the series, but you can also really read this one as a standalone. I tried not to pepper in too much subplot and movement on character development in this one, knowing that there would be a lot of readers who would join in just for a holiday read. Does anyone pick up a holiday book? I will say that I will read a series out of order. If I see a holiday like rom-com or mystery, I will definitely pick those up to read during the holiday season. So with that in mind, I made sure not to do a lot of character development or growth that was going to impact future books. You're just reading it, Joseph? You're reading Christmas in May. Oh, interessant. Yeah, Helen, it is true. Klamath Junction is a real thing. And if you Google it, you can find all of these old photos of the town. And they ended up having to move the cemetery. The cemetery was down at where the lake level is. So they had to move that up the hill when they built the dam and then flooded that area. Crazy. And you can walk on the old road too, which we have done a number of times. That covers everything, right, Chad? I know, it's just like, actually, this is a true story. My editor, when we were going back and forth, she had sent, usually I'll see sketches first, like pencil art that the first cover artist does, and then it gets digitized. But her note was, I want it to look like Christmas has thrown up all over this cover. And I feel like we succeeded in that. I have a few other holiday themes in mind for future books that I'm starting to think through. So I don't think this is going to be the last holiday that we see in the series, but it was definitely fun to go all in for the holidays in Ashland, which really are as charming as I describe in the book. There's a Thanksgiving, the day after Thanksgiving parade, and all of the kids come out, and it's a nighttime parade, and Santa and Mrs. Claus come all the way down to the base of the plaza, and all of the lights are off, and then Santa works his magic and lights come on everywhere. It's magic. That's all I can say. It's magic. And then we move on to, wait for it, Nothing But Trouble. For those of you who followed along with the series, this is the first flashback book. I shouldn't say first, because I don't think there's going to be another flashback, but I don't know, don't quote me. Maybe there will be at some point. In this book, we learn everything we need to know about Jules' past. We meet her dad. This book is told through his journal entries that then kind of suck us back into scenes from the 1990s, the late 80s and 90s when Jules was growing up. We see Tort at its inception. We see all of the same characters, but early on. So the professor is just starting out. Richard Lord is starting to build his empire. Helen is managing the bake shop and taking care of young Jules. We see little Thomas. This book was so near and dear to my heart. When we did the launch party for this, I shared, like, I bawled my way through writing this whole book. I didn't realize like how much grief Jules was holding, but this was really like a cathartic way for her to kind of heal some of the pain of her past, which really then sets up the next journey, because this is book 11 in the series. And so she's really at this point, made some decisions about home and grown into who she is as a character and created this network of community and family around her. And so now there's kind of like, what's the next thing for her? What's her next growth journey? And so that's what we start to learn then in, wait for it, you won it as a giveaway. Oh, that's awesome. Oh, that's so cool, Jamie. And you did go back and buy 1 and 2. Okay, see, there you go. I stand corrected. Cindy, yes, I'm definitely feeling Halloween. We need Halloween for sure. And I'll have to share some pictures, but Halloween in Ashland is like a thing. I can't even tell you. Everyone from like the entire Rogue Valley, well, not last year because of COVID, but normally crushes in to the plaza. There's a major parade and everyone is in costume. And I'm not talking just like little costumes. I'm talking like full Oregon Shakespeare Festival actor costumes and like thriller dances in the streets. And yes, it's all goodness. Yeah, Mary, it's kind of like a prequel. It's I feel like it could stand alone too because you're going to learn a lot about kind of the origin. It's like her origin story. Like if you've read comics or superheroes, I feel like this is Tort and Jules' origin story. There is a skull, Becky. There is a skull in this cover. Actually, Chad was, I don't know if Chad's still on, but Chad and I had a back and forth a while ago about when you see it, you'll see it. That's all I'm going to say. You'll know. Oh, Chloe, good job. Actually, that was the kiddo's idea too. He suggested that because, a lot of times it's hidden in the pastry case, but no, it's there. And there's a sticker of that the tech guy made, which is so great. After our flashback to the 1980s, which was super fun for me to write, I had a whole 80s playlist going. It's all 80s food. I did a deep dive for this one. Then we move on to something that we did together, A Brunch with Death. So this is our short that we wrote last year at this time because of COVID. This was the first thing that spurred our collective writing together. And if A Brunch with Death were going to actually be in the series, this is where it would fall. This is just a free book that we wrote together, which was so much fun. I can't thank you enough for doing that process with me. But if we were to imagine where A Brunch with Death would fall, it would fall between Nothing But Trouble and then book 12, which I'm going to show you in a minute. And I do have to say, for those of you who wrote this book with us, there is an Easter egg coming for you based on A Brunch with Death in book 14, because I was already working on, I think I'd already delivered book 13 at that point in time. I was writing book 14. So there you go. You'll have to wait for it. Okay. And then, Penny said, I saw photos as my brother was there on Halloween. It's amazing, Penny. It really is. It's like a scene from a Hallmark movie or something too. Everyone is in costume. I've never had an experience like it until I moved to Ashland. The tech guy, poor tech guy. He's working on this. The plan is we're doing a whole website relaunch that I'm hoping is going to be done in July. And as part of that, we're going to release all of these for free in ebook. Yeah. And they're up as PDFs too, but yeah. Okay, and then we move on to the book that just came out in December, which is Chilled the Cone. In this installment, Jules is opening a little pop-up ice cream shop down in the Railroad District. I love getting to show other parts of Ashland as the series continues to expand because, yes, when you visit Ashland, like the plaza, which will kind of be the key area is the place to go because that's the OSF campus and you have Lithia Park, but there's so much more to explore. There are so many neighborhoods just even within Ashland that I haven't yet touched upon. So it was really fun to get to show a different side. And in this book, Jules has really made some huge life decisions. The one thing that I will say about this book without giving any spoilers away is there is a resounding theme of love in this book. There's so much love happening. And I wrote this book before COVID, before shutdowns, because like I said, the way the traditional publishing works, you're delivering stuff much, much earlier, and it takes a long time to make it from my computer to bookstores everywhere. But I wrote this pre-COVID, and it has been so incredible to have had this book be out in the world during this particular moment in time. And I'm so grateful for that because it wasn't intentional, but it was like the perfect book, I feel like, to share this last year, because I hope if you read it or have read it that it's just a refocus on all things love. And that's just really the theme of this book. So the word I'm going to say is I love this one. Okay. And then, of course, we are moving on to the book. Oh, no, we're not. Oh, we're skipping forward. Okay. I like it. Yeah, because then we're going to go back. Okay. So this is not the next book coming out. This book.
Sorry.
Oh, well, that's fine. Actually, go back, because then I'll come back and talk about Mocha. Yeah. So book 14, Bake, Borrow, and Steal. This was the cover that was going to be yellow, but it was too bright. I was asking for a very autumnish yellow, and it's there. But when you see even that golden yellow on the cover, it still felt like too much. So now we're going to have 3 books in the series that kind of have a reddish tone, but I feel like this sways a lot more fallish. This book will come out next December, and
This December.
oh yeah, this coming December. Sorry, yeah, this book comes out in December, and I'll talk a lot more about it later. But let's go back to Mocha, She Wrote. So in Mocha, She Wrote, Andy's going to be the star of the show, and I want these secondary characters to grow and change. So they all have little journeys that they're on as well. And this book is about Andy's journey. And without further ado, I'm going to read you a section, which is chapter 1. And if it's clunky, I read a little bit of this last week at a library event that I did. I'll read more tonight. But I want to tell you, if it's clunky, it's because I have to skip over some stuff because I'm not going to give you any spoilers. So when you read it, I think it will flow a lot better. And if you hear me go, oh, ooh, you'll know why. Okay. So this, I know that sticky bun. I got to make that bun. That's on my agenda. We're going to bake those. Okay, here we go. They say that love is the answer. Oh, that's why I had that one in my head. Okay, so that was not Nothing Bundt, or what book were we talking about? Trouble's Brewing, yeah, okay. After years of searching for answers about my future and where I was meant to be, I was inclined to believe that statement. My world had expanded dramatically since I had arrived in Ashland. There wasn't a day that I woke up without a giddy feeling in my stomach. It was almost too good to be true. The pessimist in me worried that something was going to go terribly wrong. All of my dreams had come to fruition. I was in Ashland and managing our growing boutique winery, Uva. Things at our family Bakeshop Tort were running seamlessly, and we had recently opened a seasonal walk-up ice cream shop, Scoops, where we served luscious hand-churned concretes made with made with fresh local berries and drizzled with dark chocolate. As if that wasn't enough to keep me occupied, I was settling into my childhood home, making it my own by installing an outdoor oven and hummingbird feeders in the backyard, and hanging collections of photos from my travels. What more could I want, I asked myself as I turned onto the plaza. A lazy spring had given way to a busy summer. It was nearing the end of June, which meant that Ashland's idyllic downtown was bursting with activity. Tourists had arrived to take in shows at the Oregon Shakespeare Festival. Kids lounged in Lithia Park, soaking up the warm sun and a well-deserved break from their studies. Adventure lovers waited in line at the outdoor store to take advantage of the region's abundant outdoor opportunities, from rafting the Rogue River to hiking Grizzly Peak. The eager buzz of activity brought a smile to my face as I walked into Tort. This is where I'm like, when I write like this, I just wish this was all real. I really wish that I was walking, and Ashland has a lot of that charm, but I still wish that I was walking to Tort and seeing Andy and Jules and the whole crew, Sterling. The bake shop sat at the corner of the plaza across from the Lithia Bubblers, offering my team and our loyal customers a perfect view of all the action. Our bright red and teal awning, outdoor tables, and window displays, complete with strings of rainbow bunting, papier-mâché popsicles, and colorful beach balls, gave the space a welcoming vibe. A symphony of delectable flavors greeted me as I stepped inside. Andy and Sequoia slung shots of espresso behind the coffee counter. We had positioned our state-of-the-art, shiny, red La Pavoni Italian espresso machine next to the exposed brick wall so that our baristas could chat with customers while grinding beans or frothing milk. The long wooden bar transitioned into a pastry case where a line of people waited for one of our summer berry tarts, mango cream buns, and roasted red pepper and turkey sausage breakfast sandwiches, oozing with melted Manchego cheese. Also, when I'm writing like that, it's just whatever I'm hungry for. Rosa punched orders into our point of sale system and doled out chocolate croissants and slices of cinnamon coffee cake. As was typical, the booths by the front windows were occupied. The same was true for our patio seating. Picnic tables with matching bright and teal red sun umbrellas. Okay. Finding a spot to linger during the busy season required having an eagle eye. Fortunately, we had expanded our seating options with comfy couches and chairs downstairs, and additional bistro tables along Ashland Creek on the back side of the building, which is also real. That's the calle that I talk about. I paused to hold the front door open for a woman balancing a plate of pastries and a steaming mug of coffee. She scanned the busy dining room. I recognized the familiar look. I believe that table outside is just leaving, I pointed. If you want to grab it, I'll have someone come wipe it down for you. Thank you. She shot me a relieved smile before hurrying outside to snag the table. I adjusted the stack of mail beneath my arm and continued inside. Hey, boss, Andy said with a wave as he deftly poured 2 shots of espresso over a scoop of ice cream. Is that the mail? I had stopped at the post office on my way back to the bake shop after delivering a box of bread and cookies to Scoops. It is, and there just might be something in this stack with your name on it. I grinned and handed him a large envelope. It came? It finally came? Andy's boyish face broke out into a wide smile and then almost immediately turned into a worried scowl. I don't know, though. I'm too nervous. I don't know if I want to look. No, I can't look. I can't do it. He clenched his teeth and thrust the envelope to me. Maybe you should open it. No way. I pushed the envelope back across the counter. He placed a drink order on the bar and waited for a customer to take her affogato and iced latte before picking up the envelope again. Ah, look at my hands. He held up trembling fingers. Andy was in his early 20s with broad, muscular shoulders, sandy hair, and height that he was finally beginning to grow into. He had taken on the role of head barista and had been invaluable in getting Scoops up and running. I wasn't used to seeing him rattled. His fingers quaked. I don't even know if I can open it with my hands shaking like this. I'm dying to know what's inside, but then again, what if it's bad news? It might be bad news, Jules. I'm not sure if I can handle that right now. I've practiced for months for this, and I don't know. If I open the envelope, then it's a no, right? But what if it's a yes? You'll never know. I tapped the envelope. There's one easy way to find out. Okay, Andy sighed. Then he ripped the envelope open. Sequoia and I waited, watching his face for any indication of whether the news was good or bad while he scanned the contents. Andy read the letter with serious intent. After a minute, his smile evaporated. A sinking sensation swirled in my stomach, and not just because I had already consumed copious amounts of caffeine. Oh no, he's worked so hard for this. I had been sure that he would be selected. I hadn't even considered the alternative. I pressed my lips together. Well, read it yourself, boss. He bent his head forward, hunched his shoulders, and offered me the paper. It's not good news. Sequoia put her hand on his forearm. Sorry, Andy. You should have had it. You're the best barista I've ever worked with, and you know that is high praise coming from me. I know. He let out another sigh. I couldn't believe it. How had they not chosen Andy? Sequoia was right. He was the best barista I had ever had the pleasure to call a colleague, not only in Ashland, but in the surrounding Rogue Valley. I'd worked with many baristas in my years at sea, and no one had natural talent like Andy. I also love that Jules is willing, as a boss and kind of the captain of her own ship, to learn from her staff too. You know, it's super reciprocal. She is not someone who's like, it's my vision and it is my vision only. It's such a collaboration within the team and Andy in particular. So that's my little aside. He didn't have to spend hours laboring over ratios or recipes. His creative palette guided him. I knew without a doubt that one of the reasons for Tort's success was due to Andy. Locals and tourists returned again and again for his whimsical creations, like his Chunky Monkey coffee. Side note, that is the tech guy's favorite coffee from a coffee shop that is no longer in existence. But a banana chocolate blended coffee shake, or his simple Americano with his exquisitely blended custom roasts. I glanced at the paper. It took less than a second to realize that Andy was messing with us. The first words on the page were, "Congratulations!" "Andy," I swatted him with the paper. "What?" Sequoia stared at me with wide emerald eyes. "Look," I handed it to her. "He's been selected. Andy's in." Just have to swallow, sorry. Andy gave us a sheepish grin. "Sorry, I couldn't resist. I had to mess with you, or at least for a minute." Sequoia let out a whoop and began clapping. "Barista Cup, baby!" "Congratulations, Andy," I seconded her applause. "This calls for a second celebration. Our own little Andy is going to be competing in the West Coast Barista Cup. Now the pressure is really on because you have to win. I want a plaque right up there on the wall." I pointed to a spot on the exposed brick. "This is awesome." Sequoia gave him a fist bump. "You've got some serious practicing to do. Isn't there a crazy time limit on how fast you need to get the judges their drinks?" "Yes, 15 minutes exactly. You give the sensory judge a cappuccino, a latte, and a custom signature drink in less than 15 minutes, all while being judged on your technical skills and explaining the origin of each coffee and your personal connection to the cup." He stuffed the papers back in the envelope. "Sensory judges?" Sequoia asked. Andy clutched the letter to his chest. "There are 4 judges who actually drink your offerings and then score them. And then there are 2 technical judges who watch every move you make while pulling shots and steaming milk." That sounds like way too much pressure for me. She twisted a dreadlock. Sequoia was one of our newer hires and was polar opposite of Andy in nearly every way. She was laid back and exuded a chill vibe with her flowing attire and dreadlocks. Her coffee style included alternative drinks like dirty chai lattes and matcha lavender-infused cold brew. Andy could have been a poster boy for the dairy farmers of America. He had recently played football for I'm going to skip over that part. He tended to push the envelope when it came to his pairings, but his style was more in line with modern coffee shops and traditional high-end Italian espresso drinks. I'm going to skip over that part too. "I can't believe that the competition is here this year," I said to Andy. "You're going to have a massive cheer squad." He blushed, his cheeks matching the color of the espresso machine. "Thanks, boss, but Sequoia's right. I'm going to have to put in a lot of hours behind the machine to get ready. Don't worry, I'll do it on my own time, off the clock. I mean, in some ways, I'm already behind. There are baristas who train year-round for this. I'm going to have to pull all-nighters from now until the start of the cup, but I swear I will not let it impact my work here." No way. You are representing Tort. We want our star barista to shine." I adjusted the stack of mail under my arm. "Not to mention, I want to sample whatever you're making. Plus, it's summer. We're open late. We'll prop open the front door and you can give away samples like we did at Scoops. Think of it as our summer marketing plan." "Okay, cool. I'm down with that." "I'm heading downstairs. Anyone need something?" "Nope, we've got it under control." Andy shot me a thumbs up. "When there's a lull, I have an idea for a signature drink. I've been playing around with some new flavors, but I don't want to jinx anything until I'm sure. I'll bring a sample down for you and everyone to taste. I want honest feedback, though. That's the only way I'm going to improve. If anyone says it's great, they don't get to taste anything else I make." "Got it." I saluted him with 2 fingers and continued downstairs. The West Coast Barista Championship was a big deal. The event drew the best baristas from the region, along with hundreds of coffee enthusiasts. The winner would advance to the U.S. Championship and then have a chance to compete in the World Cup. There were cash prizes for first, second, and third place, along with bragging rights and future potential sponsorships. To my knowledge, no barista in the Rogue Valley had had the honor of competing in the Cup. Andy deserved to be recognized. He had put in a tremendous amount of effort at Tort, and I wanted him to know we were all behind him. Okay, we're gonna skip ahead. We're still skipping. Okay, we're gonna be downstairs in the kitchen now. Did I hear excitement upstairs? Marty asked. I could have sworn I heard happy applause. You did. I glanced above us. Hang on a sec. Let me get Andy. I want him to be the one to share the news. I hurried back upstairs and yanked Andy away from the coffee bar. You have to tell everyone. He pretended to be embarrassed, but I could tell he was proud of his accomplishments from his wide, toothy smile, as he should be. Andy has a big announcement, everyone, I said, dragging him into the kitchen. It's not that big, boss. Andy brushed off the compliment. I'm psyched, though, because I just learned I'm going to be competing at the West Coast Barista Cup. Everyone clapped and cheered. Congrats, man. Sterling patted him on the back. That is a big deal, Marty concurred. I attended the competition when it was in San Francisco a few years ago, and the judges were cutthroat. They were so tough, they were scary. Andy nodded. I know, it's intense. I was just reading through the rules and regulation, and Benson Vargas, who is the guy of the coffee world, is the top judge again this year. I've heard he's so intense, and he's one of the managing members of the entire competition. So yeah, there's just a touch of pressure. He rolled his eyes. Oh, I remember him. Marty let out a visible shudder before wiping flour from his hands on a dish towel. He made one of the competitors cry, and I heard one of the baristas claim that she'd rather die than ever have to make a drink for him again. Great. Andy clutched his neck. I'm toast. No, I don't mean to scare you. You make the best coffee in the world. You'll have Benson Vargas and all the other judges eating out of your hands like a puppy. Hope so. Andy crossed his fingers and returned to the coffee bar. I wondered if Marty was exaggerating. I was thrilled for Andy, but I hoped his coffee dreams weren't about to get crushed before they'd even had a chance to come true. There you go. A little foreshadowing, perhaps, of what's to come. Oh, toy. I can't imagine. Could it be Benson who's gonna? We'll have to see. What I love about doing research for this one is there are really coffee competitions like this. And once we all binge the Canadian baking show together, that's going to be our first talking point next week. You can go binge some of these coffee competitions on YouTube. They are incredible. And they are really cutthroat. And these baristas, like within 15 minutes, can put together these beans, and then they tell this whole story about the origin of where the beans came from and their personal attachment. It's next level, I'm telling you. So yeah, what's that? Every time I hear Andy, it reminds me of Toy Story. Oh, in an alternative universe. Yes. Oh, I love that. That's great. Okay, I'll put that little nugget in. What else do we have? I didn't see a Tort logo. Okay, no. Okay, Colleen wants to know, is the cover art done by the same artist? Yes, they are all done by the same artist for the series, minus the standalones, of course.
This is about your comment about jewels.
She thinks of their personal lifelong career success, not just what they... Yes, totally, absolutely. And I've learned that in talking to real chefs and people in that world, which I love. And then Alma wants to know, I didn't see a Tort logo on the cover.
That's not, that was earlier.
Okay.
But this is like we had this as a trivia question one time because there are several books that don't.
There are, yes. The tech guy is reminding me there are several books that don't have Tort on the cover. So we'll have to do that for a future trivia. Okay, so I hope you like that little touch. I'm excited to share this book with you. I can't wait. We're going to see a different part of Ashland too, because it's set. I didn't read this section because I think it has a little spoiler in it, but it's set out at the hills, which is on the other side of Ashland. So we'll get a little look at that side of town. Yeah, and that's all I can say for the short term, other than it's going to be a lot of coffee. There are, I believe, 2 coffee recipes in this one, and then a lot of deliciousness as always, because it's Tort and the crew. Oh, a coffee sound. Oh, nice. I like that. Okay, and then I'll give, wow, the coffee goes. They're really brewing. I'm going to give you a little preview of what's coming up next. We've got Baking the Bake Shop next week, which should be fun. I'm going to share my birthday faves. My bookish guest is an Instagram bookish lover who is coming on the first. I think I have another special guest lined up for the 8th. I need to confirm that this week. Then we're going to do a one-night mystery brainstorming sesh for Mocha. And then we're going to do a one-night mystery together. Kind of, I know, because you're all so good at this. So we're going to do a one-nighter again. And it has to be coffee themed. So start thinking coffee and murder. And then we're planning a big blowout Mocha launch party with merch and coffeeness. And I'm going to take you on another visual tour of a part of Ashland that you haven't seen for that one. So lots of good stuff to come. On that note, I hope everybody has a great night. It's always so awesome to get to spend a Tuesday with all of your beautiful faces. And I am off to go find the Canadian Baking Show. Thank you, thank you, thank you for that gem. Yeah, Jamie, we can't end without a dun, dun, dun. Okay, I'll see you all next Tuesday.